Hello, it's Richard at Richard's Guitars, and it's 2020, and I'm in my new little studio thing. So yeah, it's a bit different. So I'm just hoping you're going to like it, because lots of exciting things going on right now. But I want to go straight into the subject, because a lot of what I'm going to waffle on about, if I do keep waffling, won't be relevant in the future. So I'll talk about that in another video. Fender Guitars, as the subject of the video suggests, have been fined £4.5 million, I think it was 5 million euros or something, for price fixing. And I just found it really, it kind of opened a can of worms for me as in terms of memories. And I thought there's quite a lot of stuff that, that I can kind of give from my perspective, which hopefully gives another angle to the argument against or for what they were up to. So Fender have been fined a massive amount of money. I think it's based on their turnover as a company, because they have been artificially keeping the prices of their products high, which is illegal. It's not something you can do in a competitive environment in our modern world that we live in. And it's fascinating, because there's two really important sides to this story. One, which is my own, from my own point of view, is my own history, my own sort of experiences of dealing with Fender Guitars as a company. And yeah, they were, can I just say right now, I actually think Fender Guitars, the way they're made, historically, the quality control was very good. Out of all the issues I had with people like Gibson, who clearly is at the other end of the spectrum, Fender were very good, well-made guitars. And I had no issue with them. And in fact, I was really proud, just like I was when I started selling Gibson guitars, proud to be a dealer, as you would be. The problem with Fender is, because they saw themselves as this very, very important brand, a brand that you could only really be taken seriously, in my mind, when I started out as a dealer. If you're a Fender dealer, everybody wants to sell Fender Guitars, because it's another one of those what you might call legacy brands. Everyone knows the history and what made them great, and the players that made them great, and we all want a bit of history, and we all want to live through our heroes. So they were in a real dominant position, and sadly, as all corporate companies do, they milked that for all it was worth, and it just became an absolute, it was just so depressing selling their guitars. It was absolutely, soul destroying selling their guitars. And this is relevant, because it's all linked to the same story, all linked to the same kind of thing. I'm hoping you'll stick with me, because I know I'll waffle, but it's got to come out in order of what it comes in. So I found selling Fender guitars very soul destroying. Why did I find it very soul destroying? Because when quality issues did arise, they were completely uninterested, to the point of denial, absolute denial. And I can kind of back that kind of evidence. I can evidence that with, this is just one silly example. There was the Teleacoustic and the Stratacoustic in the old days, kind of like early versions of that new modelling-y type thing that they're doing now, but just an arcade, just a very basic electroacoustic guitar that's shaped like a guitar, Strat or a Tele. And the one, and I forget which one, I think it was the Stratacoustic. One of them was geometric, absolutely shocking, didn't work, and we would just keep rejecting it, and they would deny it. It would never be an issue. Why do you have problems? Nobody else has problems. Blah, blah. And I remember very fondly that after about 2 years of them denying any kind of issue existed in this guitar, we just took it off the catalogues, didn't sell it anymore. Fender discontinued the model that we said was geometrically flawed, and they downgraded the other one, whichever was left, to a Squire. So it's no longer under the Fender name, it's a Squire guitar now. Well, certainly was when I was doing it. So obviously they'd had all sorts of problems with them and discontinued the one because it just wasn't working out, I don't know why, and downgraded the other one because maybe the quality wasn't quite what they want, didn't quite fit the Fender prestigious brand name. So that kind of stuff really wore me down. The lack of interest, because the quality of the product was really good. I didn't have any great issues with it. My technician, Chris, he had no great issues with them. But when there were issues, when they brought out the S1 switch, the S1 was a little switch you put in to do all sorts of fangled things, on the American Deluxe Strat at the time. It was it's what I call the scale, it had the Scalextric effect. So if you imagine, some of you might be too young, but a lot of my audience might be too young, because I know that there's a lot of people my age and above who watch the videos. So we all know not Scalextrics. What am I talking about? Scalextrics. I can't edit the video. It's not a Scalextrics. Airfix. The Airfix effect. I knew it was one of them. The Scalextrics was around too. Airfix. Airfix. The old Airfix little things where you would stick them all together, but you'd pull little bits of plastic off and you'd make a plane out of it or whatever. But the little bit of plastic would be have a tiny little nib on the edge. And that little nib is fine if you're making a Scalextrics model, an Airfix model. But when it's slotting bang into the top of a tone control, it sticks. So the S1 switch continually had all these sticking problems when they weren't interested in that either. No problems, no, they don't exist. So these are the kind of things I dealt with. And then, of course, we had the whole issue of a man in a suit coming around every 3 months telling me what guitars I had to be excited about, what you're going to have to now stock, because we're no longer doing candy apple red, it's now chrome red, and chrome red and some other crappy colour that was nothing like as nice as candy apple red. But they like to limit the availability of popular colours. There's a train. I got a train from my new window. There's a train going past my shop. Hello, train. Oh, that's cool. This is exciting. So it was very demoralising being a Fender dealer. There was a lack of real kind of, I kind of felt bullied into stocking all the products that you've got to rack up. You've got to be interested in everything. I'd get criticised by head office if I mentioned anything wasn't brilliant. Now, when I was a Fender dealer, there was absolutely no margin in that product whatsoever. It was shocking. And this is the kind of an important point, because it was a really popular product and sold by all of what we'd call the big shops who were just shifting boxes really. And as a result, it's a popular product, doesn't really need a specialist to sell it because it sells itself. It's a product that every young lad and everyone wants. And I noticed that my existence was really not relevant to the success, if you like, of the Fender brand. I was just kind of like a pain in their backside, raising quality issues when they came up, which was rare, but it did, and then they weren't interested. Having an opinion to voice to my customers was just a pain in the arse as far as they were concerned. They were completely uninterested in me saying, well, the reason why I sell so many of your guitars is because I sell the ones which are, I think are relevant in the range. No. We were always having arguments about that. And then there was the problem that because it was such a popular product, the margin was absolutely a lot of the products we were selling at the time. This goes back to, I closed that particular business when I stopped being mainstream, shall we say, in 2008. So I know absolutely Fender weren't price matching in 2008 because the prices were absolutely through the floor. But what Fender did is, clearly after my era of selling the product, they kind of went full whammy. They went from completely ignoring the issues and not really needing to care, because as long as they were making their money, they didn't give a damn about anyone who was not making any money in the middle. As long as the consumer got the product, as long as they made their margin, nobody cares about the dealer in the middle, stuck in the middle. So when I noticed that, and and when I started up as Richard's Guitars, focusing on specialist products that I loved, and you know, naturally now I'd sell a Gordon Smith, a handmade British guitar that I can have any guitar made that is absolutely, you know, personalised, personal specification, personal colour. I don't need a Fender guitar in my shop. I'd love to, actually. I'd love to sell Fenders, but the ones I want to sell, the ones I think are relevant. But Fender don't want that, so I won't go down the Fender route. They wouldn't have me anyway. But the point is, I heard that there were all these shops just having their accounts closed because there was a restructuring of the Fender dealership. And I won't name names, name shops, but I was shocked at certain shops that had been real kind of what I'd call ambassadors for the brand, who I knew were specialists and certainly would have been representing that brand in the best light possible, who just said, no, we don't, you know, Fender said, no, we don't need you anymore. We are going to have our little club, if you like, of dealers. And I can only imagine, I presume I can say this now, that they went into those shops and said, right, you know, we're going to protect you, we're going to protect the brand, we're going to stock your shop full of gear, but you're going to make good money on the product. Something like that. I don't know. That's just conjecture, guesswork. And what I'd call some of the specialists out there just didn't get a look in, couldn't sell the product, weren't allowed to have the account. Now, where's all this going? So I think the way Fender handled it was really appalling, and I think they've always been that way. It's whatever suits them in the moment. So I don't have any love lost for them. However, but the result of what has happened, this £4.5 million fine, has scared the crap out of every single distributor out there. You know, God forbid you say to a distributor now, gosh, you know, have you seen the price there? You know, because it's like, how can I make a profit on that if it's going? Like, I can't have that. You can't have that conversation. It's not allowed. You know, you don't say it because it's illegal. You're not allowed to say it. You end up getting fined, and so it's opened this kind of can of worms that everyone is incredibly nervous. And what are they nervous of? Because the government right now, look at my high street in my town, Stratford-on-Avon. The streets are dead. The retail is dead. High streets are dead. And they're dead because nobody can make any money. You can't make a profit selling on the high street because you pay the massive rates, the massive rent. I'm not trying to feel sorry. I'm not trying to make you feel sorry for anyone. I'm just talking about, you know. Now let me talk about myself with low overheads, and I've moved to an industrial location to keep the cost down. I needed some space. I don't rely on footfall. I don't rely on, you know, my footfall is more, you know, people coming to visit, to look at hands-on experience the product before they buy it. I don't rely on passing trade. So I can be in a more remote location, like many online stores, if you want to call it that, can. But because I want to provide a specialist service, there's a cost to that. There's a cost to hand finishing your guitar. I mean, I see the cost every day of just people who get bored of waiting, cancel their order because they just don't want to wait for it. Simple as that. That's my cost. So in other words, I lose business just because some people just don't want to wait for the guitar. I am so desperate to make sure that guitar plays perfectly that they no longer want the guitar. How crazy is that? That's how mental it is. But forgetting that particular cost, there is then just the physical actual cost of doing that work, providing the backup service. You heard it kind of before, and I'm not trying to whinge about it, I'm just telling you the truth. There's a cost involved. So it's like, forget my business, but where are we going as a culture, as a world, as a you know, where are we going in this country or around the world? If the government only care about making products as cheap as physically possible, and we all know why they have to be, because the world revolves around growth. The world revolves around a false economy, an economy that can't exist, an economy that relies on growth, and if it's not growth, it's bust. You know, it doesn't care about specialism. It doesn't care about wanting to make sure that people like yourself or like me, when I want to start a sport or something, I don't know, I want to go and, you know, I used to play golf. I want to go to a shop, I want a competitive price, but I want to go and meet a guy, and he can help me with my swing, and he can help me choose my clubs. You know, it all takes resources and time and money that I just find it rather odd that our government would, or whoever it was, not our government, but whoever is in charge of it in the wider world, is more interested in laying down fines to guitar companies. As I say, in this particular case, there's no love lost, because I think I didn't like the way they were. You know, they were bullies. That's how I saw them. So, you know, one part of you wants to be smug, but the other part of you goes, you know what, but it's a real bad precedent when we are living in a world where the price is so protected that you know, where's it all going to go? I mean, I'll give you a quick, and so yeah, so I won't say any more on that subject. If that's just my almost a philosophical ramble about Fender and the £4.5 million fine. And tell me what you think about it. Tell me what you think about Fender and price, not just Fender, but the whole discounting thing. Do you give a damn whether, you know, would you rather have the best possible price every time? You know, I fit in this kind of middle ground where I try and be as absolutely competitive as I possibly can be, but struggling to just keep that specialism thriving. I don't want to do this if I can't. If I can't specialise, if I can't provide a specialist service, I have no interest. That's why I closed the old business down. It was just, you know, there was no money in it. There was no ability to specialise when you are selling products that don't even need a specialist. You know, look, if Gibson Guitars, the most appalling, disgusting, disgraceful brand, which I've talked about for years, how awful their products are, and I just get hate for it. If they can be as successful as they still remain to be, clearly specialists aren't that relevant, are they? But in my tiny little niche, there are people who I know care about, you know, quality products, quality service. And with that said, I'm going to try and do something. I don't think I can, because my microphone's here. See, it's all new setup, and I've got to thank John for the setup. John from my shop, who some of you have met, but some of you will see him sitting here with me in the future, because we are now set up. As this works, I'm ready to go. It means I can start bringing you stuff. Over there, to my left, but I'm not going to show you there's a room. Look, I'm going to open a door. Look, this is me. By the way, look, can you hear that? I've got no shoes on. This is my door opening. Hang on. Can you hear it? Woo! Wow. That swingy door, goes into a whole other room on the first floor. I'm on the first floor and I'm overlooking the train station. And that is our lounge, which is going to be for you if you travel a couple of hours, which 3 hours people travel easily. Come to our shop. You will have a private, actually I'm sitting on a sofa here. This will be the sofa that'll be in there, and you'll have a completely dedicated private space, and we will have your guitars that suit you, hanging up on the wall, that you can just in private just pick up and play. And I'm hoping it's going to be a really totally unique experience. So that's specialism. Yay! That's what I want to be doing. Okay, right. I'll go. Okay. I hope that was of reasonable interest, and I'll speak to you again hopefully tomorrow. Okay. Cheers. Bye. Bye.